Good morning, everyone. Today we shall discuss a new chapter from your political science book, Outcomes of Democracy. Now, what do we basically understand by the title of this chapter? It means what are the expectations that we have from a democratic form of government. Now, in this chapter, we are going to compare a democratic country with non-democratic country on various aspects or on various fronts, on the economic fronts, on the social fronts, and on the political front. Right? How do we find democracy better than the other forms of government? Or in an ideal situation, what all things we can expect from a democracy? Or in the other words, we can say, how do we assess democracy outcomes? Okay. Now the question that comes in front of us is democracy a better form of government when compared with dictatorship or any other alternative? Let's start the discussion. Democracy is better because it promotes equality among citizens. In a democratic country, all people have voting rights and they can contest elections also. It is unlike a dictatorship where the whims and fancies of a person is more important. Citizens' opinions don't matter. And here, citizens have the power or if they are not satisfied with the services, with the works of the government, then they can vote them out of power also. Right? And it promotes equality among citizens. Nobody is superior to the other. Everyone is equal in front of law in a democratic society. Right? Second is democracy is better because it enhances the dignity of the individual. Now you would like the idea of being asked for your suggestions. Whenever in a family too, you see, when you are asked about what you want, you would definitely love it. Right? In the similar way, democracy is all about the freedom of individuals in which they can express their opinions. Okay? So by allowing people the freedom to express their opinions, we are actually what the democracy is doing. It is enhancing, it is increasing the dignity of, it is increasing the self-respect of the individual. Next is democracy is better because it improves the quality of decision making. Right? See, democracy is, as I said in the beginning also, it's not about a person's wish or what does an individual want. Right? It is a system of government in which institutions are important, and every decision taken in the democratic society or a democratic country has to undergo several processes. It has to follow certain procedures. Right? So a lot of people are supposed to be consulted and discussed for making a law also. Will do lot of studies on the field and they will come up with suggestions, opinions, and when it is presented in the form of a bill in the Lok Sabha, it is again debated there, discussed there. The time allotted for the debate is given there though, and from all political parties representatives will be giving their opinions on the matter. Right? And it has to pass with the 2/3 majority, and then it has to go to the Rajya Sabha, then it has to go to the president for the final approval. Right? So many stages it has to go through, and sometimes what happens when there is some disagreement in the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, they might request to the government to send the bill to the standing committee. Right? When it goes to the standing committee, again it may take months. Right? So the quality of decision making improves in a democratic society. though it may be delayed, but it is always better to have a good decision than cry over any bad decision. Okay, and democracy is better because it provides a method to resolve conflicts. See, in democracy, it is not that there are no conflicts. There are conflicts in every society. Disagreements can be there, but it is resolved through a system. It is resolved through a proper channel, right? So we can say democracy provides a better method to resolve conflicts. There is no place for violence, or there is no place for such thing which is unconstitutional. By allowing, by hearing the voices of different people, right? Different conflicts can be resolved. Democracy is better because it allows room to correct mistakes. Okay, democracy allows room to correct mistakes. It means even though certain mistakes might happen in a democratic society, it is not that they are rigid or they cannot be changed. See, once a law is made, it doesn't mean that law will remain permanent as it is. It, if it has any mistakes, or over a time of period we get to know that there are some lacunas, there are some problems with the law, then from time to time there are provisions for making some changes in the existing laws also. Or if the law doesn't stay relevant with the changing times, then the law can also be repealed, new laws can be made. So democracy thus provides or allows room to correct mistakes. Now the next question that we ask ourselves, what should a democracy provide? Democracy must provide the right to choose rulers and have control over them. Yes, ultimately the power remains in the hands of people. If people are not happy with the government's performances, then they should have the control also. They would control through the representatives. Of course, it is not that once the government is chosen, it can do whatever it wants. There can be control through opposition parties. Again, the opposition party MPs, they are also elected by the people only. So a parliament is there. So parliament is there to even passing the budget also, right? For any law that has to be passed, it has to go through the both the houses in the parliament. People's participation in decision making, yes, the democracy must provide, yeah, it provides people the freedom to participate directly or indirectly in decision making. See, people may play an active role, or may play an indirect role in influencing the decision of the government, right? People must resent over, people have the right to to protest over any decision of the government which they feel are not good for them. Or people can discuss, debate all laws that have been made by the government, right? So on a at a particular point of time, there might be a law that has been made by the government uh, throughout the country, throughout the today's world, where we in today's world we live in electronic media, right? And we often get to hear the television debates on the television debates on that. Representatives from the government, from various political parties come there, and they put forth their ideas and opinions, right? So people must be allowed to express their opinion, and they must be participating, they must be allowed to participate in decision making. Government should be accountable to citizens and responsible to their needs and expectations. Democracy is based on the principle idea of deliberation and negotiations, and so it takes time. Yes, government should be accountable, should be answerable to the citizens, and responsive to the needs of them, right? And democracy is based on the principal idea of deliberation, debates, discussions, negotiations, and so it takes time. How does democracy can produce an accountable, responsive, and legitimate government? Right? How does democracy provides an accountable, responsive, and legitimate government? Let's discuss it in detail. First statement is democracy is accountable. Now, democracy ensures that decision making will be based on norms and procedures. So, a citizen has the right and the means to examine the process of decision making. This is known as transparency. So, democracy follows procedures and is accountable or answerable to people. Right? People have the right to know the process of decision making, how a law is made, how the decision has been taken. So this process, this is known as transparency, and as I said, the democracy follows procedures and is accountable or answerable to the people. Now next is democracy provides a responsive government. Now democratic governments have a very good record when it comes to sharing information with citizens, and much better than any non-democratic regime in this respect. Democracy is attentive to the needs and demands of the people and is largely free of corruption. Right? It has to hear, or it has to pay attention to the problems of the people, as they know that if they don't pay attention to the problems of people, then next time they will not be voted to power. Right? And they don't want to remain immersed in corruption. Government, legitimate government, this is one respect in which democratic government is certainly better than all its alternatives. Democratic government is legitimate government. It may be slow, less efficient, not always very responsive or clean, but a democratic government is people's own government. It is unlike any autocratic rule or monarchical form of government wherein a king's son would become a king. Here, the head of the government is elected by the people. So, it is a legal government. It is people's own government. Okay. Now, how is economic growth and development in democratic form of government possible? See, as far as the economic growth and development is concerned, it depends on country's population size, global situation, cooperation from other countries, economic priorities adopted by the country, etc. However, the difference in the rates of economic development between less developed countries with dictatorships and democracies is negligible. Overall, we cannot say that democracy is a guarantee of economic development, but we can expect democracy not to lag behind dictatorships in economic development. Right? Democracy does reduce economic inequality and poverty. Democracies have growing economic inequalities. A small number of ultra rich enjoy a lion's share of wealth, and those at the bottom of the society food, clothing, house, education, and health. Right? Democratically elected governments address the question of poverty by making various welfare schemes to remove poverty. Right? They may come up with subsidy schemes. They may even offer waivers also at times to poor people. Right? They might offer loans at low rate of interest. All this can be various measures to provide help to the poor people, free meals or free education. All this could be uh, various ways to help the poor in a democracy, because it's people's own government. Democracies not only make welfare schemes but also give reservations for socially and economically backward people in jobs, elections, and educational institutions. Right? How does democracy ensure accommodation of citizens? How does it accommodate, or how does it allow different types of people live together? Means how does it create situation for all different kinds of people to live in the same country, whether they belong to different religions? They might belong. People might belong to different religions, different caste, class, gender, right? But democracy is the one form of government which allows or which makes it possible to accommodate, or which is open to all kinds of people, right? So democracy accommodates social diversity. Democracies usually develop a procedure. What it means, sometimes what happens, suppose if a particular community is not being taken care of, then what might happen, there might be a social division created, and that might sometimes become explosive, right? That particular section of people who is not cared for, whose demands are being ignored, then in that case they might either be completely suppressed, or sometimes in retaliation they might even create some extremist outfits and might demand for a separate country, like what we have seen in case of Sri Lanka, where the Tamil minorities were not given their dues because of the majoritarian form of government, right? And it did not allow Tamils to have its due rights fulfilled, right? They were denied of their basic rights. They were treated as second rung citizens, right? So sometimes when we are not accommodating different social groups in the country, then one or the other group might be feeling alienated or separate from the rest, and they might take resort to separatist or extremist forms of violence, right? They might even demand separation for country. Okay, so no society can fully or permanently resolve conflicts among different groups, but democracy is best to handle social differences, divisions, and conflicts. The example I just now spoke of, Sri Lanka, reminds us that a democracy must fulfill two conditions in order to achieve accommodation of social divisions. It is necessary to understand that democracy is not simply ruled by majority opinion. The majority all It is also necessary that rule by majority doesn't become rule by majority community, as we have seen in case of Sri Lanka, where the Sinhalese, who were the majority community, and whatever they wanted, the government was taking side with them. So it became a rule by majority community. So of course democracy is a rule by majority, but it doesn't mean it is ruled by majority community. In the decision making, sometimes, like if I take an example, today I might be the part of the group who would be happy with the government's decision. Tomorrow you would be happy with some other opinions of the, or some other decisions of the government. So anybody could be the part of majority, right? Because democracy is a rule by majority, and anybody could be the part of that majority. It doesn't mean that it is always the majority community only who would be having undue advantages. Okay, so it is necessary that rule by majority does not become the rule by majority community in terms of religion or race or linguistic groups. So rule by majority means rule by majority's choice. What basically rule by majority is, rule by majority is not rule by majority community. Rule by majority means rule by what maximum number of people want. Today you could be part of that maximum number of people, tomorrow the other person could be part of that maximum number of people, right? So all will have equal opportunities to be either the part of the majority decision, or sometimes we might not be the part of the majority what do most of the people want. Like out of 10 people, if 6 people want a particular thing, then that decision must be taken keeping in mind what the 6 people want, right? And in those 6 people, it is not that all the members of all those members will be of one particular community. Different community people could be the part of that majority decision. I hope you have understood this. Now, democracy promotes dignity and freedom of citizens. Democracy stands much superior to any other form of government in promoting dignity and freedom of the individual by providing fundamental rights. Every individual wants to receive respect from the fellow beings. Okay. This I have already discussed. How does democracy ensure dignity and freedom of citizens? As I said, democracy stands superior to any other form of government in promoting dignity and freedom. The passion for respect and freedom of every citizen forms the basis of democracy. If we talk about the dignity of women, most societies across the world were historically male-dominated societies. Long struggles by women have created some sensitivity today that respect and equal treatment of women are necessary in a democratic society. That doesn't mean that women are actually always treated with respect, but once the principle is legalized, it becomes easier for women to wage a struggle against it. It means there should be a law that should clearly state that men and women should be treated equally, right? Women should not be discriminated, right? So once a law is there, of course people have to abide by that. So there will be and discriminated castes for equal status. Many people, those who were belonging to the so-called lower classes, they were deprived of their basic rights. So after the constitution was after the constitution came into force, it was decided that all people must have equal rights, equal status, and certain sections of people, those who are lagging behind, they must be given reservation, so that they all should come at par with the rest of the people. There are instances still of caste-based inequalities and atrocities, but these lack the moral and legal foundations. Yes, definitely there are caste-based atrocities, but strict laws are there to protect them also. Perhaps it is the recognition that makes ordinary citizens value their democratic rights. Right? So here we have discussed all the aspects of democracy. We have discussed the political outcomes, we have discussed the economic outcomes, as well as the social outcomes, and how a democracy is better than any other form of government on various fronts. Right? I hope you have understood it. If you have any questions, please do ask me questions. Don't hesitate to ask questions on my personal window. Thank you so much.